Okay, so my first question would be, you being a politician in the UK, how do you think the current crisis will affect the UK-EU relationship and the public perception?
Well, the European Union is a great thing for the United Kingdom, and I think the UK is an important part of the European Union. It's important for us economically in terms of jobs. It's important for us as a way of projecting power in the world. Britain's not an empire anymore. We're a medium-sized country with an enormous history, but one of the ways in which we can help influence the world, engage with Russia, China, India and others, is through the European Union. So I think most people in Britain realise that, but there's sometimes an anger and a frustration because Europe does things that drives some British people a bit angry, and I can understand that as well.
But have you observed any change in their perceptions over the last couple of years, and do you think overall the crisis will have a positive or a negative impact on the way Europe is perceived?
I think it can only be a negative impact. Any crisis initially creates a negative sentiment. It's how you then resolve the crisis. Once you resolve the crisis, if it's done properly, if it's done fairly, if it's done in a way that strengthens the economy, then opinions may change back. But in the short term, I think it's very damaging for Europe.
And what would you say are the worst case and best case scenarios for Europe in the future?
Well, Europe's got to, I think, stop talking about institutions. And what happens, I think, in Europe is there's a problem. Let's design an institution and work out what it does afterwards. We should decide what's Europe's role in the world. What do we have to do? And build institutions around that, rather than the other way around, which sometimes happens at the moment. But I think the most important thing Europe can do is have a sense of economic growth, give a chance to businesses to grow, for people to get jobs, people to move around, to be employed in other countries, but then be able effectively to project a voice on the world stage. Europe will never have an army. Europe will never have a single unified defence policy where we can cooperate together. That's really very important, particularly at a time when America is occupied intellectually, perhaps with China and other pressures, and President Obama has been talked of as the first Pacific president. Europe has got to do more, particularly in its own backyard, on foreign policy and defence.
Okay, that was going to be my next question about Europe's role in global defense, because the issues we're facing are increasingly global and Europe can't deal with it on its own. So what position do you think Europe should take in the global arena?
I don't think the European Union or the European Parliament will become the decision-making body on defence policy or defence deployment of our forces, but we can have a lot more cooperation, a deeper cooperation, a wider cooperation, so that we structure our forces in a way that are complementary. And at a time when we're making cuts in our defence expenditure, we make cuts that mean at the end of it, all of the countries in Europe who are members of NATO do it in a way that means they've got a balance, the right type of balance. We can't all get out of fast jets. Now the United Kingdom won't get out of fast jets, but you can't all be making those decisions. So that's a really important point. We've got too many soldiers who can't deploy. I think there are 2 million people in uniform in the European Union. Only 5% of them can deploy. There are too many tanks that can never be used. There are too many fast jets that can never be used. There's not enough helicopter lift. So all of these big things, we can't fix that ourselves in the United Kingdom. Germany can't fix it itself. So it's about cooperation. But it won't be through our views, it won't be through the European Parliament, it won't be through the Commission. It'll be European countries together or through NATO that will make that happen.
And finally, could you summarize the main immediate challenges to European security? Which areas do you see as the most problematic one?
The main threat, I think, is the groups of malevolent and violent individuals acquiring a chemical or biological capability, or a knowledge on cyber attack that could really cause European countries and economies very significant difficulty. That's a big threat. But I think a wider threat is a threat of ambivalence, that after Iraq and after Afghanistan, public opinion in Europe says, let's not get involved in any further conflicts overseas. At a time of austerity at home, let's just look after our people at home. So that state of ambivalence, I think, is a really difficult threat for European countries. And I think we have to engage with it and try and make an argument that says we have a responsibility beyond our own borders, and unless we deal with the problems in the world of terror, of climate change, unless we deal with them abroad, we'll have to deal with them at home. So I think that's the biggest threat.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.